Distinguished colleagues, thank you on behalf of the delegation of the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia for the invitation and for organizing this important conference that brings together countries aspiring to join the European Union. Unfortunately, our delegation couldn't attend today. Nevertheless, our proposal to deliver a video message at this conference was welcomed. As the chair of the European Integration Committee, I will briefly outline the role of our National Assembly in the negotiation process during the first panel. I would like to take this opportunity, first of all, to congratulate Georgia for being granted EU candidate country status by decision of the European Council on 14 December 2023. An important step has been taken, and even more important step awaits, namely opening accession negotiations, whereby begins the most demanding phase of European integration, accession negotiations, a phase that will result in complete alignment with European Union values and legislation. It is my great honor to be a keynote speaker on the panel titled Steps Towards Joining the EU, Role of National Parliaments in the Process of Negotiations. I will present Serbia's experience and the role of the National Assembly in the accession negotiation process. We are aware of the fact that negotiations are conducted by the government. However, parliaments, through their functions, above all oversight and legislative functions, can facilitate and accelerate the European integration process. Overall oversight of the executive by the National Assembly also includes oversight of the work of the government in accession negotiations and in Serbia's entire European integration process, given that the government is responsible for policy implementation, which includes negotiations. Accession negotiations and Serbia's progress in this process are regularly monitored by the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia. As the government was preparing for the beginning of accession negotiations, the National Assembly of the Republic of Serbia defined its own role in this important process by adopting the resolution on the role of the National Assembly and principles in negotiations on the accession of the Republic of Serbia to the EU on 16 December 2013. With this resolution, the National Assembly confirmed that Serbia's strategic objective in accession negotiations is to gain EU membership and to contribute by playing an active role to successfully conducting the negotiations and concluding them as soon as possible. The resolution emphasizes the importance of the cooperation between the National Assembly and the government of the Republic of Serbia that is in charge of conducting and coordinating the accession negotiation process for the purpose of meeting all the necessary EU political, economic, legal, and institutional accession criteria. It also emphasizes the necessity to include National Assembly committees in charge of some issues from the corresponding negotiating positions in the process of monitoring the accession negotiations, while the European Integration Committee plays a major role in coordinating of all the activities. The sitting of the European Integration Committee, where the proposal of the negotiating position is considered, is attended by an authorized representative of the government, the chair of the negotiating group, and the head of the negotiating team for accession of the Republic of Serbia to the European Union. The European Integration Committee provides its opinion and/or offers recommendations on the proposal of the negotiating position. The government considers the European Integration Committee's opinion and recommendations when adopting a negotiating position and informs the committee thereof. The resolution also lays down that the government member in charge of the European integration and the head of the Serbian negotiating team need to submit quarterly reports to the European Integration Committee. And even more often, on the committee's request, they need to submit reports on the current state of affairs in the process of negotiations with the European Union. The government submits to the National Assembly a report on the negotiations on Serbia's accession to the EU twice a year, at the end of each 6-month period of the rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union, which is then debated at the National Assembly's plenary sitting. By the European Integration Committee's special decision on the procedure of considering proposals of the negotiating positions in the process of negotiations on the accession of the Republic of Serbia to the European Union from June 2014, we regulated the procedure for considering proposals of negotiating positions in the process of Serbia's accession negotiations by the European Integration Committee and the committees whose scope of work includes issues from the corresponding negotiating positions. I wish to highlight that within the negotiations process, the European Integration Committee cooperates with civil society organizations gathered together in the National Convention on the European Union. The National Convention on the European Union was established for special cooperation between the National Assembly and civil society in the accession negotiations process, in line with the good practice of strategic cooperation between civil society and the highest legislative body in the country, and elected representatives of citizens, which was established by the 2004 National Assembly resolution and reaffirmed by the 2013 resolution. The consultative mechanism of the European Integration Committee and the National Convention on the European Union contributes to the National Convention's full participation through an institutionalized open dialogue and effective negotiation monitoring mechanism. With the adoption of this resolution, the National Assembly strengthened its oversight role in the process of negotiations on the accession of the Republic of Serbia to the European Union. Also, it showed readiness to ensure inclusiveness in all phases of the EU accession negotiations through its cooperation with civil society, experts, and other stakeholders. Moreover, it has ensured full and timely information on the development of the EU accession negotiations and on the results achieved. By passing numerous laws and strategies at the National Assembly, we are working to create a coherent normative system necessary for further reforms, economic system development, advancing the rule of law, judicial reform, and the fight against corruption and organized crime, exercising and protecting human rights and fundamental freedom in all areas. With the coming into force of the Stabilization and Association Agreement on 1 September 2013, Serbia was granted EU associated country status. The two most significant commitments that Serbia undertook are establishing a free trade zone and aligning national legislation with EU law. The Constitution of the Republic of Serbia defines the National Assembly as the supreme representative body and the holder of constitutional and legislative power, and as such, it has a significant role in the process of harmonizing the national legislation with the EU acquis, notably through the work of the European Integration Committee. In the process of harmonization of the national legislation with the acquis, the National Assembly plays an important role, having in mind that most EU provisions need to be transposed and introduced into the national legal system, and at the same time this process needs to be overseen by the supreme legislative body. The key element of a successful institutional and administrative structure during the accession period is the establishment and functioning of efficient cooperation mechanisms between the National Assembly and the government. Alignment of the national legislation with the EU acquis in a transparent and consistent manner is considered a priority in the work of the National Assembly. The European Integration Committee considers all law proposals submitted by the government with an aim of aligning the national legislation with the EU acquis. I would mention here that the government of the Republic of Serbia submits quarterly reports on the implementation of the National Program for Adoption of the Acquis, so-called NPAA, that are considered by the European Integration Committee, and subsequently, the committee submits a report on it to the plenary. The National Assembly's work in the European integration process and harmonization of legislation is best reflected in the assessments made by the European Commission's country reports. I would particularly emphasize that our Parliament has established the practice of having plenary discussions on the European Commission's reports on Serbia in the last quarter of the year. After the discussion, the plenary adopts conclusions. The procedure is such that after the head of delegation of the European Union to Serbia presents the ECU report on Serbia to the European Integration Committee, MPs, who are mostly committee members, submit a proposal of conclusions about the EC country report for the year in question. This proposal is discussed in the plenary of the National Assembly. We believe that this is an additional incentive for the European integration process and that the debate in the highest representative body brings European values closer to the citizens of Serbia. Unfortunately, due to the recently held elections, the latest ECU report on Serbia has not yet been presented to the committee. Finally, parliamentary diplomacy must be mentioned. The European integration process contributes to the development of various forms of interparliamentary cooperation, enabling the exchange of experience and know-how among MPs from various countries. Today's conference is a testament to this. The National Assembly, in cooperation notably with EU member states' parliaments, parliamentary assemblies of European and international organizations, regional countries, and of course with the European Parliament and other EU institutions, contributes to the European integration process. The cooperation between the National Assembly and the European Parliament develops primarily through the meetings of the EU-Serbia Stabilization and Association Parliamentary Committee. Through this form of dialogue, the European Parliament delegation obtains information on Serbia's progress in meeting the political, economic, and rule of law criteria, after which the committee adopts a joint declaration with recommendations. Moreover, these meetings are a form of a joint supervision of the progress achieved. Members of the European Integration Committee and of other parliamentary committees participate in regional activities and thus strengthen the regional cooperation at all levels, which is one of the most important political criteria and also one of the foreign policy priorities of the countries in the European integration process. Dear colleagues, I wish you a successful and fruitful conference, and I hope that we will have the opportunity to meet again soon. Thank you.